Danny, it's all about international football at the moment, and a lot of people say to me the momentum goes. We're loving the Premier League at the moment. We're loving the battle in the Championship, and all of a sudden international football comes on the scene. But when the games come along, we tune in. We're ready for them. I mean, who wouldn't be wanting to see England against Brazil at any time?
Well, I think when England play decent opposition, it's always a better watch because you see players being tested a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of injuries in the England squad, especially defensively at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see what Gareth does and who he tries, because there's some new faces in the squad. But yeah, he's preparing for the Euros, isn't he? So he's going to have to start thinking about who's in the squad, who's capable, who's partnerships, all those little things. But when they play teams like Brazil and Belgium, it's always a better watch. Yeah. I mean, some of the games they've had in recent times, they're very hard going. Yeah. Very one-sided, tedious, unchallenging encounters. So this will be better.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, this time last year, a little bit later on in the year, we saw our participation in the European nations, and our performances in that were pretty poor, and we got games where I think we got beat 4-0 by the Hungarians and things of that nature. It'll be interesting to see how we approach these games as a lead into a championship that we half expect to win.
Yeah, I think the difficulty in the squad in the games is that some players who are guaranteed starters or guaranteed in the squad will inevitably, in the back of their mind, be looking ahead to the big Champions League games coming up, the big Premier League games coming up, and they won't go as all out as some of the lads on the periphery who are desperately trying to get in the squad. And I think that's why sometimes you see these mixed levels of performance, because you never really got a full 11, 100% at it. Why would you? Why would you break your neck when you've got so many big things ahead of you? So, I mean, is it a case if you're good enough, you're old enough? In comes Kobbie Mainoo at 18. He's received his first England call-up. Manchester United player, of course. And yet, just a few days ago, Gareth Southgate was explaining why he hadn't selected him.
He's doing brilliantly for a young player, and we're never slow to put a young player into the seniors, but he's only had a handful of games, and you have to be very careful development-wise in making those decisions at the right time. So we think ideally we should allow him that space to develop at his own speed. He's not at the point in terms of number of games or that Jude or Bukayo were when they came in for the first time. But I repeat, he's doing really well for a young player. He's a good footballer, you can see that. And he's getting some fabulous experience with Manchester United at the moment, and looks a really good character.
And in he comes. So, what do you think is the motivation behind his call-up then, Danny?
I think probably a change in circumstances around some of the players who already who've met up at the squad, who are carrying knocks and things like that. The picture changes when the lads all get together and the physios have a look at them, and that's probably why. There doesn't seem, I don't think there's anything else it could be, really. You're not going to not put him in, then put him in based on nothing.
Well, you wouldn't think it would be this, Simon, but the Times reported last month that the Ghanaian Football Association was trying to persuade him to play for them instead of England. He was born in Stockport, but his parents are both from Ghana.
But he'd have known that the other day when he said what he said.
Yeah, and he comes anyway.
Well, you never know. The characterisation of it is not beyond the pale, because I think in the past, I think we've allowed other players, namely Zaha and Victor Moses, that were involved in the England setup, to drift away because there hasn't been this feeling that they're included within the framework of the opportunities that get them towards the senior squad. You've got to get the balance right of expectation for the young players and when and who they can play for. So I think there might be a part of that. The characterisation of it, is he old enough? Well, is he old enough for what? Is he old enough to be in the squad in some friendlies? Well, why not? Is he old enough to be part of a championship winning England side? Probably not at this stage. So I think the ultimate equation is, do we get something from putting him into an international framework, see how he responds to the backdrop of being in amongst other players from other clubs, and maybe he gets some game time. So I think the question is he good enough and old enough for what? For being in a squad? Yeah, I think so. Why not? For being in the England squad for the Europe Championships, if we're going to try and win it and have players available and seasoned and understand the expectations of international football, probably that's a step. Yeah, I don't think he's ready for.
I mean, you could argue, Danny, he's well aware that he's hit the scene at a very high level anyway, of course, with Manchester United. He's played 20 times for United's first team. He's got a couple of goals, but he's involved. So that in itself prepares you, I would have thought, to be in with the big boys at international level. As Simon rightly says, I think something like this, an international break, and they are non-championship. They're not. This isn't the Euros. This isn't the World Cup, but it is Brazil.
Well, it's a chance for him to be around the more senior boys and see how he adapts. Because you see England squads, when you go, you see so much in training of the levels of players and how quickly the young ones adapt. Now, you're right. The fact that he's been at Manchester United with some of the superstars they've got and seamlessly fitted in and embraced the opportunity suggests he'll do the same with England.
Yeah.
But I am with Simon. I think it's probably a little bit too early, even if there was an injury or two, to throw him in at that level and expect him. But he is a super talent. He's calm, he's assured, he's got great feet. I think he's played a lot of games. There's certain games where second halves he fades away a little bit, understandably, because, you know, gaining that match physicality and experience comes with time. But he's a star in the making, the boy.
Okay, well, we've seen it happen before. Talent. We saw it happen with Walcott, Rooney, Owen, of course, and Bellingham's still a kid. But Bellingham is an exception to everything else that we've seen, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But in comes Kobbie Mainoo, and we wish him well. England, Brazil, and a whole lot more this week and on this show. We're only at Wednesday, so tomorrow, Friday, of course, we'll be building up to that match. When Brazil are in town, anything can happen, and anybody who's thought highly enough in the game is usually around and about the scene.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.